Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning into another episode of Mindset Check, the real podcast. I'm here today with Lindsay Pepler. Lindsay, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I love the festive red. That's great.
Good.
You know?
Don't be alarmed with this picture either.
What is this? Oh,
Back
nice.
in my
Dance.
glory days, I did the promo shoot for So You Think You Can Dance.
No way.
Yeah, like season 4. It was forever ago. But yeah, my little claim to fame wall up here.
So tell me what that means. What did you mean? What do you mean? How were you involved with that?
Oh gosh, I've danced my whole life. I don't know if you need that, but I danced, yeah.
I kind of knew that.
Years.
I kind of knew that.
Yeah, Laker girl for 4 years and I had like an agent, so I did, everything I could to audition for everything under the sun. So yeah. I got that gig. I didn't go on the show. I didn't dance on the show, but I did do the promo photo shoot and stuff for it, which was cool.
Okay, so let's go back to the Lakers. When was that? What years?
I did that 2005 to 2009.
No way.
Yeah, and they won the championship 2009. So I got to experience the parade and the whole thing. It was awesome. So fun.
So you were all in it. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So my wife and I, believe it or not, people are always like, wait, what? We met through basketball. I loved playing. I still love playing. I loved the Lakers growing up. When I was little, I loved Michael Jordan. But then as I grew up and then Michael Jordan wasn't really around, it was more like, the Lakers, because just they're here, like Kobe and Shaq. And then my wife was a huge Kobe fan, and so was I. But, I was always, there's always the talk about Kobe and Jordan, who's better and whatnot. And I was always like Team Jordan, and she was always Team Kobe.
I love that.
One of the few disagreements we have.
Oh my gosh. One of the few, right? I can't believe that he passed away. It was just so sad.
Yeah. I will say, it's so interesting because when you think about it, I never met the man, right? But it's just crazy how much someone can have impact over somebody. I felt sad. I never met him. To me, he could have been an imaginary person. I never met him physically, right? So, but because he was so a part of our lives, watching him play on Christmas Day almost every year, and then just, he was such an icon. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to call it, there's a connection within humanity. We feel, when someone dies like this, the death is felt by so many people. And it's undeniable. Yeah,
he was such a legend, and he obviously did so much within his career, let alone just playing the game. But sorry, my printer.
That's okay.
It's done.
I'm going to be using all this anyway.
Oh, okay.
So no, we're rolling. I'm already rolling.
Oh,
so
gosh.
We're good. But yeah, we're going to go back to the dancing thing. Yeah. But I kind of didn't really warm up to him, just who he was, until after sometime when I got older, and I was really looking into his mentality, and just obviously the Mamba mentality, who he was as a father, who he was as a person, always giving back to people, and because he had daughters, which I have daughters, he was always reaching out to WNBA players and really making sure they were given the proper platform and whatnot. So just to see the type of man he was outside of basketball really made me admire him even more. And you probably have more experience with that than I do.
Yeah, it was interesting because it's there's almost two sides to him. And although I think he obviously grew up a lot over the years, and they went through some things, all in all, yeah, he just seemed like he was always giving back to other people. And you really seemed like a family man at the end of the day, which was just so devastating that happened at such a young age for his poor family. It's he just was retired, and and then this happens. It's just tragic, but
it definitely tragic.
Yeah, he made his mark, on the community, and it was so fun to be able to be, a Laker girl in those glory days. His 81-point game, I was there, sitting I was there sitting on the floor, just got to witness it all. It was really, really cool. So some of the best, times of my life for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I want to talk about that, because to me, I feel like that is a challenge. To get on the Laker girl squad like that, to be a Laker girl, that must have been very trying, very challenging. So we'll go to that, but we're going to talk about a lot of things today, from her being a Laker girl to her being now a mom and an amazing businesswoman. And we're going to talk about her schedule, what she does, and right now specifically like what she's doing in quote unquote downtime, right? Because it's the holiday season, and some of us in the real estate industry may be experiencing time where we could spend more time with our family because things are closing down for a bit. Caravan, for example, is closing down for next 3 weeks or so. So, what are you doing with your time, during this season, and how can you optimize it so you're still getting, you're still being productive and getting ahead, but you're also enjoying the time with your family? So, Lindsay, thanks for being on today.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. It's just an honor and pleasure to be here. Yeah, it's our business in real estate. It's always going up and down, and has slow times and fast times, and where you're busy, and then there's always shifts in the market. So obviously right now it's a little bit of a slower time, especially this time of year being at the end of the year. So embracing the downtime, I always say. I try to tell myself that because you can get in your head, you can get in your own way, and you're like, okay, what's going on? Where's the business? Am I doing all the things? And right. you start to mess with your head a little bit. But just taking a step back and a deep breath and saying, no, everyone's kind of feeling it across the board. There's obviously a slowness in the industry.
Yeah.
But take advantage of the downtime and the slow time, because it's not always going to be like that. Because there's definitely times where business has been so busy, so chaotic, you feel like you're going in a million miles a minute and running in circles and trying to do everything, check everything off the list. But, right now, I think it's important to obviously, take a look at your business at the last, year, and kind of talk about and think about, different goals and things that you want to maybe do differently or start incorporating. Just kind of getting your business, like going back to kind of square one and saying, okay, what's working? What can I improve on? Really setting those goals for the next year, taking that downtime, that advantage of the time that you have to be able to do those things, because it's difficult to do it sometimes throughout the year when you really are so busy and, like I said, going a mile a minute.
That's so important. And I want to highlight or emphasize it with an analogy. So how I like to think of the end of the year is like the end of the day. When you're about to go to sleep, they say it's important for you to think about what you're going to do tomorrow. What's important for you tomorrow? Like, write it down, think about it, let it simmer, like
reflect.
So you're planning for the next day, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But even just like you said, at the end of the day, that's so important to reflect on the day. My husband and I, when we sit down for dinner, we always talk about our pit and our peak of the day, just to kind of remember, okay, well, what, was a peak in the day and what kind of was a pit, and just kind of talking through that. So yeah, I think it's
like
important.
that. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
You guys talk about it, like actually, like, hey, this was a horrible, part of my day, and this was the highlight, and then you guys allow each other the space to process that, or what's the intention behind that conversation?
Yeah, I think obviously it's good to, table conversation. We both kind of work in the same industry, so we kind of feel each other's pain at times, but just to kind of like reflect on and kind of focus more on the peaks of the day, because it's so easy to just constantly be drawn to like the pits of the day, to just stay in that like grateful mindset daily is important.
Yeah. I think about it in this way, like it's your brain operating in survival mode, right? So it's like saying in a very modern way, it's going back to the primitive time of like, how do I survive? This was a negative. It could be something really bigger that I'm not aware of, so I got to pay attention to it, which is not the way we should, or at least I shouldn't say should, but it's not the most productive way to address a pit, right? It's the way to address it is saying, okay, that happened, address it, and then ideally minimize that from repeating again. But if you focus on the, like you said, the peaks, then you fill yourself with gratitude, and then ironically, you're able to address the pits because you're operating from a higher place.
So true. And it's easy to focus on the negative. It really is. And it's unfortunate that we do that, but I think it's just how humans are, how we operate. We just tend to focus on those negative things because they've made such an impact. But I think if you can do the same thing for the positive things, it just changes your spirit. in
Yeah. Can
general.
I ask what your husband does? I'm just curious now.
Yeah.
You said,
He's a lender, so he's a
okay,
loan
got it.
officer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So he's definitely in the trenches with you.
He's feeling it right now.
Is.
Poor guy.
Man, and I'm not laughing because I think it's funny. I'm laughing because I think we're all on that like same boat, you know. And I loved how you were vulnerable and you said that, you know, you sometimes get in your own head when things are slow. You're like, did I do it right? And I do the same thing. It's like, did I do that right? Or did I not have enough conversations? And obviously you can always improve, but during this time you also have to be sensitive of like, hey, you might be a little bit more critical on yourself than you normally are because you know you're not like I at least for me when I don't do the activities like I don't go on caravan, I don't make calls or whatever. I get in a little anxiety. Like I start to be like, wait, did I do enough? Like because you're planting seeds, right? Like that's what you do. Like conversations lead to things, and so I think when there's a slow period, and it's slow because it's just the holiday season or what have you, um, yeah, I start to itch a little bit. You know, I'm like, you know, like where one because I love doing it, but two, I know it's part of the business. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, we work in sales, so there's always ups and downs. I feel like that it's like the daily mentality. Like, am I doing enough? Am I, making all my checking everything off the list, making all the calls? A big part of our business too is being in front of people,
Mhm.
creating relationships, having conversations. And I think that really took a shift too when COVID kind of was present, and everyone was working from home, and there was no meetings and all that. So it's funny because I had to like shift my business a little bit,
Mhm. Mhm.
utilize video a lot more, virtual meetings, things like that. So, it's kind of like blending the two now that we're kind of
Mhm.
a little bit more back to normal. So
Yes.
taking advantage of being able to still stay in contact with people like this downtime,
Mhm.
touching base, but you won't necessarily see people as often right now when we have this little bit of
Right.
slowness.
And when you're experiencing that slowness, whether it's a season, whether it's in this case a holiday, or if it's a time in your life, like when you have a kid, you just had a baby, you're probably not going to make that usual Monday call the next week, right?
Yeah.
Things
Hmm.
shift. So how do you personally, or maybe you don't really have that anxiety come up, but how do you deal with oh I need to do my normal routine or my normal schedule, or else if I don't, then I'm not planting seeds, and maybe that starts to give you a little bit of some fear.
Yeah, it's funny you say being a mom too, because I have a son who's 18
Mhm.
months. So I'm in the thick,
Congratulations.
thank you, little Jackson.
Yeah.
I'm in like the thick of like toddler phase now. And so it's really trying to like figure out that work-life balance, like
Mhm.
when I can really focus on work and be all in and intentional with my time there, and then intentional with my time with him and my husband and our family. And so
Mhm.
really kind of structuring my day a little bit more, because sometimes in this business it just things just kind of get thrown at you and they just happen, and you get a call and you got to be pulled this way and drop off something there and have this meeting, and so you're kind of all over the place. And so
Mhm.
I try to structure my day as best I can, just so I know that I'm doing all the things and staying on top of that
Yeah.
really helps me. I'm a big checklist type of girl,
Yeah.
um because the mom brain is real. It's a real thing. I,
Yeah.
I tend, I'll forget things unless I write it down. And so really just even with my business is just, I'm going to set these few calls that I'm going to do. I'm going to send this out. I'm going to do, I create that checklist so that I really stay on top of it. And I feel like I'm not always like swimming up for air with business,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
and
know?
that's a great strategy checklist. And you mentioned your schedule, setting that up. So, you talked about goals earlier, checklist, scheduling your day, and then you also talked about like moving your body, right? So that what
Yeah.
does that mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, keeping the right mindset really has to do with taking care of yourself. And part of my self-care is making sure that I move my body some way, somehow,
Hmm.
every day. And, there's going to be days that I don't do
Yeah.
it, but I really try to make it a point. I mean, I grew up, I was a gymnast, I was a dancer. Like I was an athlete. I was always moving my body one way or another. And so
Mhm.
it's just kind of like ingrained in me to
Yes.
do that. And I think, obviously it's harder the older we get
Yeah.
to keep off the pounds and all
But
that
we
kind of
need it
stuff.
more, I think. Like you need to move your body. As you're gonna get into like you're gonna get arthritis, right? Like you gotta
Yeah.
move.
You got to move. You got to move.
Yeah.
And it's good for your, just like your clarity for the day
Yeah.
too. So yeah, I try to, whether it's, I have a Peloton,
Mm-hmm.
so I try to ride there, take my classes. I love bar classes. Or even just getting out and walking with my
Yeah.
family, just getting that fresh air and just moving makes me feel so much better,
You got to. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think they feel better too. You guys, walks are great, man. Family walks, they're so underrated, I think. But like if you go on a walk and whether you can let your kid walk or they're at the stage where they can't, like at one point I couldn't, like even now actually, I will take the stroller. Like you sit
Yeah.
me there because we're not gonna get anywhere. And then it's great for mom and dad. Like I love talking to my wife during that time. We feel like we can share
Hmm.
stuff. And we typically do like an evening walk.
Yeah.
But walks in the morning are great. But I also do that with my daughter. So in the morning, which I love doing, I was like, I got to get better at setting traditions up with my daughter. So we
Yeah.
actually go in the morning, we walk, and we walk barefoot as long as it's not cold, super
Yeah.
cold. And so I have my own reasons, but like that walk really helps them kind of, it almost regulates them for the day because I noticed that when we don't go, they're like more easily influenced. Like external things can influence their energy, and then
Yep.
I could sense them kind of losing it more. And that walk is just powerful. So I totally get it. Whether it's night or morning, it's just a good time, a good opportunity.
I think getting outside, getting that fresh air, it just makes you feel good. It just gives you like, yeah, like a burst of energy. You're right. And it just kind of like soothes, I don't know, for me, it just kind of like soothes my soul a little bit,
Yes, yes, yes.
So, and we have beautiful hikes around where I live. So
Mm,
just, taking advantage of that and getting
mhm.
outside. We get so consumed in business, just getting stuck behind computers and your phone. And it's
Yes,
just, you sometimes just have to make it a point daily, I think,
yes,
to just
yes.
put that down and go outside.
Yeah, no, agreed. That's a good one.
Hmm.
Um, so move your body, checklist, schedule your day, create goals for yourself. What's something else that somebody who's listening or watching can be like, hey, I'm in one of those places right now. What's something else I can do to kind of either get me out of a funk or keep me going, right? When I want to kind of just give up.
Yeah, for me, obviously, like I said, I have a little toddler and
Hmm.
busy lifestyle and just go, go, go all the time. And I think often I kind of lose like a sense of self because I feel like I'm just trying to do everything for everybody else.
100%.
And so, yeah, having that me time is important too.
Hmm.
Whatever that might be, it's different all the time. I'm like a big nighttime me time
Nice,
girl.
nice, nice.
Once I get my son down, it's just
Uh-huh.
being able to take that time to I love taking a bath and
Hmm.
like an
Hmm.
at-home spa kind of thing and just taking care of me that way and just kind of like settling my mind at the end of the day is so
Sure.
important. So whether it's, or sometimes I like to just go out and
Hmm.
go, shopping or walk around. I love to like go grocery shopping and just
Yeah,
to like get out of the house
by
and
yourself.
yeah, by my husband.
Yes,
That's the key.
yes, yes.
By myself.
Yes.
Yes.
I
It's,
saw this TikTok or something. It was like before kids, if you and in my case, me, my wife, you and your husband, you were talking about like, oh, we need milk or whatever. Who's gonna go to the store? And it's always like, I'm busy, I'm doing this, or I got this to do. Now with kids, it's like, oh, we need this, and you're like offering up,
I'll
I'll
go.
go, I'll go.
Yeah. Totally true. I mean, I could picture me and my husband having those conversations all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
I get that.
and I want to go back to something if you're open to it, but like, you talked about, for the moms out there, and my wife's told me this too, which is you do kind of, you can lose yourself in the day,
Yeah.
and so that self-care is kind of a way for you to reconnect with yourself, to find yourself again. Is there a moment, like, do you know when that moment has come, or is it something like at the end of the day, you're like, shoot, like, wait, you know, I need to find myself again.
Yeah. For me, I feel like I just reached this point of like kind of this like frustration or this like, I get a little easy to be irritated, things like that.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, wait, I'm feeling, you know what I mean? Like you just are I kind of just have that feeling of like, I got to take a minute for myself,
Yeah. Yep.
So there isn't necessarily one thing that's, for me, but I just
Yeah.
get that vibe and that feeling like, okay, you're feeling like a little bit easily flustered or frustrated.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that's you the inner, the you that's, experiencing all this on your own is like, hey, I need some attention. I need some time. And all this is kind of frustrating me because I'm not addressing something within me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not because you're ignoring that need. It's just because you haven't had that time or the opportunity, whether it's, your kids pulling you, your husband's pulling you this way, responsibilities are pulling you that way. Like, and so you haven't given yourself that time to be like, okay, well, let me self-reflect. How am I? How am I doing today? What's on my mind? What's you know
Yeah.
pulling at my heart, right? So there's that finding again, and it's because I think it's because, and I do this too. It's not the same way a woman does, in the sense of like the kids tend to need mom in a different way than they need the father, and it's a way that everybody gets a little bit more easily irritable. And if you can come in and be like, hey, hubby, I need like just 10 minutes,
Yeah.
like can I have just 10 minutes, and my wife will get her cup of coffee and go and drink it real, just for 10
Yep.
minutes. Just, I want to look outside the window. Don't even do anything. Just drink, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Giving yourself grace at the end of the day. I think I've just been in a competitive environment since I was a kid. I mean, like I said, I was a competitive gymnast, a competitive dancer. I always tend to want to please people. I always want to be like the best that I can be in anything that I do. And I think you just get so like overwhelmed at times of thinking that way and being that way that you have to like kind of check yourself every so often and say like, wait, you're doing a great job. You give yourself some grace, give yourself some credit.
Yeah.
And you don't always have to be thinking of like the next thing to do. Really like slowing down, which kind of is like what we were talking about in the beginning of that downtime.
Sure.
Is slowing down and taking advantage of that. And I struggle at it sometimes,
Sure. I think we all do. And I love how you were saying, you got to create those boundaries too, like with yourself, right? Because you are like so high level achiever that you're like, okay, this downtime means I got to work like for the next thing that you're after, whether that's a family thing or a career thing or a personal thing. It's like people who operate like that, and I fall victim to that too. It's like, okay, I have this moment where I'm driving in the car. What can I do to get ahead on my schedule or checklist? Right. But maybe that moment you need just nothing to happen. You just need to drive and let your brain like stop thinking for a sec.
Yeah.
And then you'll show up even better for your appointment, or for
Yeah.
your clients or for your family. So I think I'm guessing is that you're such a high level achiever that you're like, those moments that you're just like kind of calm, you're just like thinking of the next thing, when you're saying like you're using all these practices to kind of bring you back and be like, okay, I can do that, but I also need to take care of myself, because ultimately you're the vehicle that makes all those things happen.
There's always going to be so much you could do, but there's only so much time. And I think I've really kind of tried to recognize that more and more ever since becoming a mom, is just really staying intentionally present with my son, with our family. Because before that, I mean, it was just me. I mean, I've been married for 3 years now. So like, obviously our marriage and being in a relationship, it's like you have each phase, but like for a while in my single years, it was just like go, work, hustle, and now I feel like I put in that time, and it's always, the grind's always going to be there. It's just like instilled in me, but it's really, taking advantage of the time, because, you have kids, like your time with these little ones is so, it just flies by.
Happens fast.
It really does. And everyone warns you of that. And you're like, okay, I get it.
It's such a cliche, but it's so true.
It's so true.
And then when you have kids, then you're like, oh God, this is so true. Like, why? Yeah, 100%. I mean, I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old daughter. And it's crazy how life is happening. It's 5 years, and you think you're only 5, but it's been 5 years. It's a long time. And so I think what you mentioned earlier in this conversation, also offline, is like, you got to be intentional and be present with your family, right? And how do you juggle that? I mean, maybe you're still figuring it out, and so am I, actually. I wouldn't say I have it down pat, but how do you kind of balance both, the goals you have for your day, and then also saying like, wait, let me spend 5-10 minutes coloring with my son because he needs me to connect.
Yeah, I mean, now that he's in like a daycare preschool, it's a little easier.
Sure.
Because I have the time where I know he's being taken care of, so I can just really focus in on that time for, work. And then, once he's here, then we can really focus on him and our family. It's hard at times. I'm not always perfect at it by any means. I think it's difficult when we work in a business where everything's, on your phone or your email, and you're so glued to it. It's actually, my son's 18 months, and I could tell he's already aware when I'm like focused on my phone and
Yep.
not with him. And it just crushes me when I could see sometimes and
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, I
Yeah.
gotta put the phone down,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think just kind of being aware of that and just, kind of dedicating my time when it's right, you know,
Sure. Yeah.
is helpful. So
Well, that's beautiful. I think it's having those boundaries too, right? So it's like, okay, I had this conversation with the client too. She was saying, "Oh my God, I love how you're so," and I just started doing that because I'm a people pleaser, and I've been working with that because it's like you're not going to please everybody, and it's okay to make somebody upset, especially when it's because of a healthy boundary,
mhm,
right? And so
mhm.
it's saying like I can't take a call right now because I'm watching my daughter's jujitsu class, or even a text, right? Because sometimes you're like, well, I can at least text, right? But like you miss it, you're not there. Like
Yeah.
don't pretend like you're there.
Hmm.
You're gonna half heart everything, right?
Right.
It's like just be all in on your kid, and then when that's done, then be all in on your work when it has to happen. So it
Hmm.
sounds like you're kind of really clear on your boundaries, which is awesome, which is such a great a skill. And I think it's a skill because as a people pleaser, having those in place allows for me to show up better for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's challenging. I think being aware of it is one thing, but yeah, really living it and seeing it through is another. And it's just an ongoing daily challenge to be able to kind of structure it that way because it's also for me, like it's not just my son, it's like my marriage too. Like
Yep.
that's if not the most important. So we're like, a strong unit together so that we can kind of be the best, parents to our kid. It's just like a whole kind
Yeah.
of circle.
It's not simple.
No, it's not simple. It
It's
sounds
not.
like it could be, but it's not.
Well, I love having these conversations because they're just like sharing your experiences, and then some practices that work for you.
Yeah.
Because giving people, the audience, a chance to listen to what somebody like yourself, who's been successful, who is successful, and is going to continue to be successful. Yeah, you have certain practices. We've taken a lot of your time today, but I want to wrap up with the mindset, if you can, just because I'm so intrigued with the whole Laker girl thing. Like, right? Because it's super competitive, like ultra competitive. You heard a lot of no's before you got that yes. How was that like in dealing with rejection and then ultimately getting there? Can you take us through that journey and specifically like around the mindset?
Yeah. I mean, with Laker girls, I mean, it was kind of that thing that I always dreamed about. I mean, I've grown up as a dancer and it's like, what's like the end goal? I
Mhm.
can't dance for the rest of my life, but like, what's one big goal where I could really dream big that I wanted to do? And it was Laker girls. I mean, I did college. I danced at college and did,
Mhm.
dance competitions and all that. And it was kind of like, what do I want to do for the next step? And I knew that Lakers would be a huge challenge to get there. It's a very difficult process when it comes to the audition process. There's hundreds and hundreds of girls that go for like
Yeah.
22 spots on the team, very
Wow.
little.
Hmm.
But I was like, I would never want to regret something that I didn't try to go after. I just had that mentality like, I'm going to go for it. This is a
Mhm.
dream that I've always wanted to have. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to audition, see how it goes. And I think I was 19 years old when I first auditioned.
Mhm.
And I luckily made the team in
Wow.
2005. Yeah. And it was a
So you
process.
had no no's. You didn't get a no. I knew a few women that were tried and got no's, consistently. So, you know,
It's funny. I actually so I did 4 years with Lakers, and every year you have to re-audition. So you don't have a secure spot
oh
each and
wow.
every year. You have to re-audition. You really have to be a good employee throughout the whole year and prove yourself. And every single year that I re-auditioned, there was a few girls that auditioned again for the team and didn't make it. So
Wow.
it's really never like set in stone. So
Sure.
I just tried to be a good employee to, be a great ambassador for the company and for the organization. And, because when you're in those positions, like it's not just your dance skills. A lot of it, unfortunately, has to do with your image
Yes.
and your weight
Sure.
and all of that, which
Yeah.
wasn't easy at times. I'm not like stick skinny naturally, so I have to work at it. And so that was hard. That kind of played with your head a little bit and
Sure.
your mentality at times. I think I've just always like had this drive in me, and I don't know if it comes from my parents. They've always been hard workers, kind of growing up
Mhm.
there. But also, I think just starting so young as a
Mhm.
gymnast, where it's
Sure.
hardcore. It's like you have to be dedicated, and it's hard work. So I think that's just been instilled in me as I've grown up.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
the hard
obviously.
hard work is like second nature to you because of that from childhood. But I do want to kind of go back to what you were saying, where you're like, okay, you're being scrutinized, right? Very laser focused.
Hmm.
How do you deal with that? As a woman, that's kind of already happening in society. But then when you go in, you're in that role now as a Laker girl. It's like it's very external, right? So it's like, how are you representing the company, the
Hmm.
team? How are you interacting with fans? I'm sure in different things. So obviously, it matters who you are inside, but the first thing is always going to be like what do people see. So dealing with that, and then the fact that you had to prove yourself every year is pretty lifelike, right? Because you still have how good you did this year, it's not going to matter next year, right? So how do you deal
Yeah.
with that constant, like, oh, it's coming up, is it month 6, you're in and you're like, hey, I've been here for half a year, but shoot, am I going to make it next year again,
Hmm.
like, right? How do you deal with
Yeah.
that?
It's hard. I mean, like the image part of it was tough. It's funny. When I first auditioned, I had blonde hair like I do now. They
Uh-huh.
made me dye it dark brown. So they
They
like,
did.
yeah, they
Interesting.
wanted like a certain look. So I kind of was just open to that and trusted what their vision was
Yeah.
for each person on the team. But things like that changed. It was hard. Out of
Yeah.
the 4 years, it was tough. I had sit down conversations where they were like, okay, you need to tone up a little bit more, or you
Wow.
need to lose a couple pounds here and there. And so you're like, and I'm very an emotional person, and I'm very
Mhm.
sensitive.
Okay.
So I put on a brave face as best I can in person, and then I'm the one that will
You
go
lost
cry
it.
in my car on the drive home. I
Yeah.
love a good cry. I love a
Yeah.
good cry.
Hey, crying is great. I tell my girls, man, like I tell them crying's good for you. Like get it out. And everybody processes it differently, but you don't want to be that person that doesn't process it because you're afraid to cry. So I'm glad
Yeah.
you cried. Good for you.
Yes, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
You just feel better afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I would pray about it.
Hmm.
I am a Christian, and I'm always like, okay, be grateful for the opportunity that you have,
Yeah.
and do what you have to do,
Yeah.
to be able to look and feel your best. It wasn't like they were trying to make me like super, super like sickly skinny, but it's
Right.
just anything they were suggesting was ultimately going to make me feel better and was better and
Right.
healthier for me. So I would, I'd have to watch what I ate, and I'd have to make it a point to work out,
Hmm.
on the regular, and all of that. So I
Yeah.
just kind of knew at the end of the day that's expected of me in
Yeah.
the job that I was in.
Yeah.
So we're just going to go for it and do what
Yeah.
I can,
Well, you're badass. You're just like
well,
you're just like I did it. I did it, David. I just did it. And I imagine like the proving yourself, and we'll wrap up with that. But like the proving yourself mentality, that can get in you can get in your head very quickly.
yeah, you can. And there was times that it did, there was definitely times where it was all consuming, and I was worried that this was going to be an issue, like
Sure.
moving into other seasons. Um, but I just at the end of the day, like, knew how bad I wanted to fight for a spot to be on the team. And I knew what it took for me to get there. And so I just kind of had that mindset that I always was going for that goal, and I was going to do what I had to do to get there. I've always kind of had that mentality. I don't really know what it is nowadays, like in business, and just, I feel like I listen, I drive a lot for work. So I listen to a lot of podcasts that are motivational, encouraging,
Mhm.
or I'm constantly like learning, because I never kind of want to be stuck in like a rut. I always
Sure.
want to kind of expand my mind and learn and grow and stuff. So it kind of bringing back to like mindset. I
Yeah.
kind of take advantage of that too. So yeah, I think it's just, grateful for the things that I've had, and just worked hard to get to where I needed to be.
Well, I can tell you from me standing on this side, like I think your self belief is beautiful. In fact, today I had a call with my accountability partner. We talked about self belief, and something that came to my mind was like self belief. If you think about it, which I think you have an amazing relationship with yourself and your self belief,
Thank
is
you.
self belief is very much a way of self love. Like if self belief is probably a high one of the highest forms of self love and self healing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
having that self belief, like obviously, like you said, you have you believe in God, you have a faith in the higher power. That's in there too, but you also have a belief in yourself, and I think
Well,
I've seen that before, but I see it now a lot. I can after you shared some stories with me.
and I think, yeah, I believe in God, and God gives you like the gifts and the talents, right? And it's up
Yeah.
to you what you do with them. He's
So,
handing them to you, and you have to take it and run with it and do what you can with them.
yeah,
Um,
there's a parable, I believe, right? So it's like there's physical talents that were given out, and then I think it was one woman came back and she doubled or 10 times her talents, which the talents was a monetary, I think, coin, but it was analogous with the actual talents and gifts that you have. And so I believe with you in the sense of like believe God endows you with certain things, and it's your responsibility and job to 10x it, right? Like,
right.
how can I make this the best because I've been given this responsibility?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny in this business too. I mean, when I first, because I obviously was like in the dance world and, auditioning for all the things. And that was like my passion and still is my passion. But it was like, what do I do now? Like,
Yeah.
what is going to pay the bills? And I got to a breaking point at one point. Like, I literally was like, I had no money to my name, like nothing. I was like, I was coaching, I was bartending, serving tables, teaching private lessons for dance. I was doing like all the things. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting older. I got to figure out what can I do to create a life for myself
Mhm.
and a career. And that's when I kind of jumped into the real estate business, because I have family. Literally, I have almost all my family is in it one way or
Sure.
another.
Yeah.
And so kind of was just, I guess, in the blood. I don't
Sure.
know.
Sure.
But I jumped in and I had no idea what I was doing. No clue.
Wow.
I mean, I knew a little bit because my
Sure.
mom was an escrow rep. So I
Yeah.
kind of knew. And I started in escrow
Uh-huh.
before I moved over to title. And
Well,
I
subconsciously, it was like you absorbed it. So I think you knew a little bit already.
a little bit, but I was very green. One of my strengths is just, being a people person. It's always been fearless. And I think it's like just kind of how I grew up.
Mm.
So I just jumped in all in 2 feet and learned as I went. And it's being able to create a beautiful life for me and my family. And I'm just so thankful that I said yes to something that I didn't necessarily always see myself in, but has been one of the best decisions for me, and a completely different, industry, ballgame, everything than
Yeah.
I was used to.
Yeah. I'm
But I
sure
knew,
there's a lot of carryovers. I mean, life, there's a lot of similarities, and I think your skill set you have is just that you're able to jump in and figure it out, right? And
right.
and that's a skill set that more than likely was passed down to you, and you just have honed that skill. But yeah, man, you're awesome. I'm a fan. I've been a fan. I've had Nathan on here, Nathan Wood, yeah, who
My
you're
cousin,
related to, your cousin, and then Marissa Toure,
sister-in-law.
sister-in-law. Yeah, so I
See, it's
like
all
it.
in the family.
Dude, I'm like, I guess your husband's next. If
We
somebody,
got you covered. Yeah.
I can't, dude. I tapped into the best network in all of real estate right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, your family. I'm like, who do I go to next to talk to? They're awesome. Because all you guys, well, the three that I've talked to already, just and had on the show, it like similar mindset, similar like just drive, and it's just cool. I mean, and then the fact that you guys are all kind of in the same industry, different parts, different
Yeah.
aspects,
Hmm.
it's pretty cool. But hey, thank you for being on today. Really inspired by your story, and I know there'll be everybody who listens is going to feel the same way.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun. And I just love what you're doing just for not only the real estate industry, but just anybody you have on here. It's just what I love the most is just hearing people's story. And
Mhm.
you can really take something unique from each individual's story, their mindset, all of that, and apply it to your own. So I love that. And I love what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll have to have you back, and thank you. Have a great day. And if I don't, I'm sure I'll speak to you before then. But happy holidays and
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
enjoy
Thank
this
you.
time. Merry Christmas.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.